He is a leading authority in the field of consumer neuroscience and currently holds the position of global lead of neuroscience at global market research company Ipsos. His key areas of expertise include consumer neuroscience, emotion measurement, decision-making, detection of cognitive conflict, and DEI. Welcome to UiPath Live, Dr. Manuel Garcia-Garcia.
Hello, Mary. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Really
Thanks
good.
for having me.
It's great to have you here. We mentioned you were coming, and many people were surprised that we were having, a neuroscience on our show. So I think people will understand why soon.
Yeah, I think understanding the brain is insightful for everybody.
That's true. So today, the theme of the show is speed, and why organizations need to move faster and how they can move faster. And we wanted to do this show because it had occurred to us that that we'd seen research and just our own sort of anecdotal, what we've noticed is that people seem less patient and less willing to wait for responses, for product, for services. So I want to ask you first, is this something you see in your research? Is this true?
Well, there is clearly a sense of immediacy right in today's world. And this is partly because technology has conditioned us for instant gratification, pretty much on everything, like instant access to information, instant shopping.
Yeah.
The way we communicate with each other, and what that has done is that it has reset our expectations. And now anything below what we expect, that's like that speed, it's disappointing. And that's why we see statistics out there, like 2/3 of consumers think that speed is as important as price. 50% of consumers would not put their money on something that's lower than expected. We've seen research at Ipsos that for online shoppers, fast delivery is by far the most important factor, like with 80 to 90% saying that it's either important or very important. We also see that on like convenience stores, gas stations. We see that with our clients that are demanding higher speeds on the insights, to which of course we respond. But in online behavior, it's where it becomes more critical. So we had a recent case on usability for a credit card going through the referral journey, right? So what we saw in the usability test is that at some point, the user could not quickly access the information they need to do the referral. And then they stopped and they would not do the referral. And obviously, once that was solved, they will complete the journey. But it's that quick access to that information which what made it like seamless and made it actually efficient.
Yeah, I do that.
I do that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm going to sort of mentally give it a certain amount of time to do that activity. So in that example about the referral for the credit card, and if you can't get your hands on that information, it's gone, and going back to it is probably not going to happen.
Yeah, similar with surveys. Like if it's going to take long, then you probably quit.
It does make me ask, why are we becoming so impatient? You mentioned technology as a driver. Are there other things in the external environment changing as well?
I do think there's something that comes down to everything becoming an emotional experience, right? Because technology has, as I said, conditioned us to instant gratification, and that impacts the reward system in the brain. But that's much more impactful because everything is an emotional experience. Like now when you go dining, it's not about eating, it's like the whole dining experience. Oh. Even shopping is not about stocking the fridge anymore. There's a whole shopper experience, there are a lot of steps there that have to go seamless, and where there's an experience, there's an emotional experience, and then there's an expectation. And that really plays with our reward system a lot more and makes it more impactful, and that's what leads to this level of impatience.
Interesting.
So is speed addictive? Would you say speed's addictive? Like, are being exposed to speedier interactions fundamentally changing the brain in some way, maybe chemically or even structurally?
Well, let me get a little technical here.
Oh, good.
So there are like these two neurotransmitters that are related to the sense of joy that we feel in many of these like consumption experiences. Those are serotonin and dopamine. I'm going to focus on dopamine because that's related to the reward system. So dopamine is really interesting because it activates when we feel that excitement, the joy, that pleasure, but it also activates when we anticipate that excitement and that joy and that pleasure. So it allows us to learn which are the behaviors that will bring us pleasure, so we'll make that decision quickly, and which are the ones that will not. And there are like 3 phases here. The anticipatory phase, that's when we are anticipating the pleasure we're going to feel from the choice.
Right.
Consumatory phase, that's when we actually consume and experience that joy. And the updating phase, where our brain evaluates the discrepancies and says, well, that was a good choice, so let's continue doing it, or that was not a good choice, let's stop. And then you related that to, you asked me, like, speed is addictive. So, like, obviously addictions are a lot more complex, but it does come from that. And many substances act directly on the dopaminergic system. But it does act on that in the sense that, when you feel that pleasure, you want to continue that behavior, and it does become addictive. So this speed that is giving us instant gratification, that releases dopamine, so we want it again, and we get into that loop of impatience.
So let's sort of talk generationally for a minute. I mean, people born into the information age have really never had to wait for anything, right, for any experience. Does that make interacting with younger employees, with younger consumers, with younger people, does it make it a different proposition to interacting with someone older, or not so much?
So actually, like this, Gen Z and whatnot that
Yep.
grew up with all the digital world, they've been trained. They haven't known anything other than speed and seamless digital interaction. So of course, I would recommend to prioritize speed and efficiency. Also to make things engaging, but in a way that you capture the attention quickly and make it engaging and interactive. Like they're playing with it, and you see that in a lot of more advanced digital advertising. And obviously mobile first, because that's where what they're using all the time. But for older people, like I'm on the older part of the millennial generation, which means I've been using these devices for 30 years, and even if the brain is more plastic during formative years, the brain is plastic, and we learn
Right.
throughout our lives. So we are already trained, we already have those expectations, and I would apply those learnings to everybody.
So we're not immune.
We are absolutely not.
Okay.
We learn.
Yeah.
So one of your focus research areas is how consumers make decisions. What do business leaders need to know about how people's decision-making processes maybe today might be different than they've been in the past? Has there been a shift?
I think that's a great question because we at Ipsos have worked a lot on decision-making with our academic partners, and our proposition, and what science shows us is that when we are making a choice, when we're making a decision, that decision can range from, like, in a whole continuum, in a whole spectrum, from like very automatic decisions like opening a door, like picking up the soda that we buy every Monday in the same grocery store, to like more deliberative decisions, like purchasing a car, like something that you have to weigh in. So when we're faced with a choice, we evaluate the choices we've made in the past, and going back to that reward system, if we've received an experience that exceeded our expectation, that choice is very automatic, so we're just going to do it. But if it has not exceeded our expectations, then it could move towards the deliberative and create cognitive conflict. So I think the way we make decisions has not changed, but however, we are in an era of less brand loyalty.
Yeah.
We are also in an era, as I said before, of where everything is an experience, and then if the experience doesn't meet the expectation, we're generating cognitive conflict. And if I'm your brand, that's bad for me. If I'm another brand, that's good for me. So I think it's more important than ever to be able to understand and detect the level of cognitive conflict when the consumer is making a choice.
I just have a point that I want. It sounds like establishing it's really important, maybe more important than ever, to create a perception, to make sure you are meeting people's perceptions, and you're not like you're not promising something you can't deliver,
Exactly.
or you've created a perception that you can't deliver on. That will be worse than having no perception.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important, more important than ever, to understand the expectation of the consumer so you can meet them there.
So this might sound a little self-serving, but I'll ask it anyway. How can companies shape interactions and workflows that satisfy people's inner sort of speed demons, if you like?
I think like something that's very important is like number one, to create experiences that are efficient, that are frictionless. So that requires research, usability research, consumer experience research. But then another thing would be to give the consumer like a sense of DIY, of do-it-yourself, of independence, of being able to, to complete the whole task without any help. So one example of that, a project that we had recently, when there was like this home improvement retailer developing a tool that was actually really cool to fully design your kitchen, and you could like purchase things through this tool. But there was a big point of friction there that was for the consumer to define the whole layout of that kitchen, to create everything. So that had to be solved. So it had to be something that they could do themselves seamlessly. So that was solved. And another thing that we've seen in research is in this time of instant gratification, where our expectation is instant gratification, to get feedback more constantly so the consumer feels some control, and also more rewards. So this feedback is kind of rewarding. And if we take it also to the wall of the employee experience, there's like recent research from Cornell that shows that when employees are receiving reward for smaller tasks more frequently, feedback more frequently, they do report more interest in their work, they do report more joy, and employee satisfaction is absolutely critical for the success of your company.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so we have time for one last question. And so as global lead of neuroscience at a major market research company, you have a unique perspective, because you're sitting at an intersection of neuroscience and or of business and the human brain. So if you were giving our audience and business leaders one piece of advice, what would it be?
I'd say a lot of research. So first, to understand which are the expectations of the consumers, and if possible, understand the expectation of your consumer before they have them. That'd be great. But also invest in consumer insights, obviously. One, I think, is more important than ever at many levels, and I could talk about this for hours, to understand your consumers' emotions. I think that's very critical, and that's also where you can meet them where they are. Because of the reasons I explained before, understand the level of cognitive conflict when they're making a choice. But then the last one would be to never forget the employee experience, because all of these insights really apply to the employee experience, which is like a big part of our lives as employees, and employee satisfaction is critical for the success of every organization. So that would be it.
Well, we've run out of time. So this has gone fast.
That's ironic.
But thank you so much for being here, Manuel.
Thanks for having me.
This area is really fascinating.
Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Great to see you.